Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with our guests, but guess what? We're going to give our sponsors a shout out. You've heard my speech before. These are great companies. You should be using them. So here's 3 minutes, quick shout out. Stick with us and then listen to our interview. Here we go. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Gipper. You know, your athletic department is doing great stuff, and Gipper is going to help you get it out there on social media. It's used and trusted by over 20,000 high school and college programs. It's the #1 rated app for athletics marketing. One reason is the thousands of easy-to-use templates that they've professionally designed that you can then customize in your colors, your brands, your logos. Create, share, and schedule all of your social media on one simple platform. And that platform is Gipper. Go to Gipper.com for more information. We also want to say thanks to Home Campus. Scheduling, rosters, results, communication with your teams, with your state association, facility management. Home Campus does all of this and more. Does it better, does it faster than the other platforms. Go to homecampus.com today. We also want to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. There's a lot of programs out there, but Ohio University's is really one of the top-rated ones in the entire country and one of the few that allows you to earn your master's degree while also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. That's a big one. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. You've heard me say many times, probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. It's tremendously versatile. We use it for home games, naturally, but we also use it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule a live web demo today. That's sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to say thanks to Hometown. Hometown's suite of solutions is almost endless. Things like digital ticketing. They're still the #1 digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. But how about fee-free fundraising, athletic website construction? You really need to reach out to Hometown. Whether you're an AD, a head coach, even a principal, Hometown's going to show you how to save time. They're going to show you how to raise more money, and they're going to show you how to bring your entire community together. You're going to find it all and more at hometown.com. Let's also say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and their content creation service, Beacon Creative. Now, Wall of Fame has been helping schools bring their legacy to life for over a decade with their video boards, but Beacon Creative takes it to a whole new level. Their talented team of writers and creators are going to come up with compelling stories from your school's history, your coaches, your kids, that you can then post on social media. I want you to go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and click on Content Services. You're going to be very glad you did. Let's say thanks to our good friends at Athletic Surveys. Now, at my school, we use surveys for just about everything, for student athletes, for coaches, even for parents. And here's the cool thing. The information that came back, almost always over the top positive, and it'll be the same for you. We also got to hear from our squeaky wheel parents, but the surveys allowed us to find out what the concerns were, usually address them before they turned into something big. But that positive data, incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with a frustrated parent, maybe your principal, sometimes even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Let them create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. athleticsurveys.com. We also want to say thanks to Booster Hub. It's the #1 booster club software app. If you work with your boosters, you know that volunteer signups and volunteer changes happen every day. Well, with Booster Hub, nothing falls through the cracks. Everybody stays connected and engaged. The same is true with sponsorship fees and concession sales. Booster Hub truly does it all. Give your boosters the platform they need. Give them the platform they deserve. And that platform is Booster Hub. Go to boosterhub.com. And finally, let's say thanks to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a huddle school. And our coaches, I'm telling you, all of our coaches just love the huddle platform. Our student athletes love the videos. Our parents love the streaming, but there's a whole lot more. Go to huddle.com to get started. That's huddle.com. Join the millions of users and make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Educational AD Podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. Regular listeners will certainly recognize today's guest, Dr. Megan Buning, FSU coach program. If you're new, you're in for a treat. And I encourage you to go back to our Spotify library, listen to Megan's original interview. She's one of our most frequent contributors on Wednesday Wisdom. But she's got an incredible background. She was a Division I athlete and coach. I just realized this today doing a little LinkedIn stalking on her profile. She is a certified legend. I'm going to say that again, a certified legend by an organization called the Southeast Conference. She left coaching and competing behind a little bit to become a sport researcher. She's a certified mental performance consultant. She works with high school, college, Olympic teams, coaches, and organizations. Does a lot of work with officials and umpires. Oh, in her spare time, she does color commentary for, again, the SEC network for softball games. And we're very excited to have her back on Wednesday Wisdom. Dr. Megan Buning, welcome back to Wednesday Wisdom.
Well, thank you. I feel like I need a fog machine and some hype music to go along with that. I appreciate it.
I'm available for introductions for your many speaking engagements if you need me to step in there. Let's jump right into your talking point. We were talking a little bit before, and again, I could say we follow each other. Basically, I follow you on social media. And a recent event, you had some very timely, and again, the thing I like about Dr. Megan Buning is she speaks the language of ADs and coaches. She was there, but now in this part of her career, she is a researcher. She's a scientist, and she deals with data and facts on how we can do a better job as coaches and leaders. And the recent events in the WNBA with Sophie Cunningham of the Fever and the infamous pointing episode that's turned into a million different memes. You actually had some timely comments and observations on that, and even some personal experiences. So that's the setup. So now I can kind of step aside and say, what do you have for our listeners this time on Wednesday Wisdom?
Yes, so I think today is going to be more of a conversation back and forth between me and you, but what you're talking about immediately when I saw Sophie's pointing and then the result with the opposing player, Bonner, and what happened, I was taken back to my younger days in high school in particular, when I was a younger athlete. And let's be honest, this started much before high school. I'm sure it was in middle school and before. But I remember myself being in Bonner's position where it seemed like all it took was a look or a hand gesture or even just a step towards me. I was a pitcher, so even from the hitter, a step towards me or something like that. And it would set me off, kind of similar to what we saw the response was. And for those of you that haven't seen Sophie Cunningham's meme of her pointing, go back and watch the entire interaction, because she literally did not say a word to Bonner, the opposing player. She didn't in that moment touch her. It was a response and basically kind of calling Bonner out, I think, for some actions prior. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to help regulate those emotions. That was kind of the point of the post that I made that you're referring to, Jake, is learning how to regulate those emotions. But let me preface this with the WNBA and the sport of basketball in general is a high contact sport. There are people touching you all the time, emotions, they're trying to get into position. And in the WNBA, I perceive it to be a little more than high contact. Sometimes I feel like it can be a little too much contact. And so you have to think about the emotions, the adrenaline that are happening in those moments. Prior to this particular situation where Cunningham set Bonner off, you have to understand they were already having physical contact. Emotions were already running high. And so Bonner's response, it wasn't just from the pointing. There was high emotional things going on and adrenaline happening prior to that as well. So just want to talk a little bit about how maybe you can share some tools, learn some tools, and put those in place for when you run into these situations where you are very triggered emotionally and you want to just pop off. But how do we handle that in the moment?
Yeah, and it's an interesting conversation. You'll see a lot of people weigh in on the whole thing, and you can tell from their comments, or at least you can, I guess, that they really didn't come up through an athletic experience. Because you're absolutely right. Any sport, any competition is going to be an emotional event. You want to do well, you want to support your teammates, you want to win in whatever capacity that is. And so you're already at an edge. And we talk about peak performance and being I'm drifting out of my lane here, but that peak arousal, you're going to perform well, you're going to play well, shoot well, run well, whatever it is. But if you go beyond that, if the emotions get too high, then performance falls off. And I think that's that's what happened in that case. Is everybody was excited. The one athlete probably got a little too excited.
Yeah. And so when I think about performers, and it doesn't matter if this is an athletic performance or if this is a performance with giving a public speech or whatever that performance looks like, you are exactly correct. I think about what we like to call hype numbers, HYPE, hype numbers, which is essentially your arousal. So when you think about a hype number, it may be easy to think about it on a scale of 0 to 10. So at a 0, I am in a coma, basically. What you're asleep, you're not really there. But when you think about a 10, this is you are over aroused, you are over hyped to a point where you probably cannot perform at all. Like you cannot think straight, you can't see straight, you are maybe out of it in a sense. So when we think about performing whatever that sport is or that skill is, you're right. There is a sweet spot in arousal level or a sweet spot in that hype number. And so it can be helpful for you or performers or athletes to think about what is the ideal hype number or arousal level for you. And so when you think about what goes into a hype number, so what goes into that arousal level, well, you want to think about for your best performance where you feel like you are functioning on all cylinders, you're focused, you're physically playing well, you're mentally locked in, and your outcome, your results show that. So I hit the ball really well, I pitched a really good game. Well, let me think about how I physically, mentally, and emotionally approached that game and see if I can assign a number to it. So that's how we start identifying what this hype number is. So for me, on a scale of 0 to 10, before a game, I preferred to be probably at a 7 or an 8. And I needed to kind of work myself up a little bit. And I'll put that in perspective and I'll tell you what it looked like for me. So if I dealing with other clients, a lot of times these athletes are saying, well, if I think about my hype number, I actually want to be at maybe a 4 or 5. So they want to be kind of even keel. That's where they think I'm not too high, I'm not too low. And I feel like I can get out there, I can give the physical effort I need to, I'm focused, um, and I feel good. I'm not so nervous and my stomach's not sour, I'm not shaking to where I can play. Now, for me, being at that 7 or 8, what that would feel like to me is I needed to work myself up more so than other people. So I would come to the field sometimes, and if it's kind of a midweek game or it was kind of a slow game, and I'm just kind of, oh, I'm just going to relax and have fun, that didn't work for me. And so I would have to think about things that would make me angry about the other team. So I may pretend that the other team was talking smack. So I may pretend that the other team was a Sophie Cunningham and was kind of giving me looks. And I was uh, creating that scenario in my head so that I was a little amped up. And so physically, I may feel like I'm more nervous than what other performers may like. Okay. So all to kind of give you an idea of what me working myself up to that 7, 8 height number would look like versus somebody else that needs to calm down. Maybe their stomach's too jittery, their palms are too sweaty, they're kind of jumping out, they can't focus and control their eyes and where that eye motion and movement and focus is going. And so they need to maybe take some deep breaths, do some breathing techniques. They may need to sit down, calm themselves down a little bit so that they can lock back in. And then others like me, we need to be up, we need to be moving, and we need to be kind of working ourselves up. All right. Now, that's part of it. So identifying what height number do you think you want to be at, and creating a routine and scenario to where when you approach that performance, you're sitting around that height number. Then comes in, all right, now I'm in the game. I am performing the skill. So you want to think about with softball, there's not a ton of contact that happens between athletes. So the energy and the emotions that are being generated are kind of like we're on the field and I can hear the other dugout cheering, and there's energy from that. There's energy from my fans, my team, and that kind of stuff. But we're not making a lot of physical contact. So when you add physical contact into the mix, that can certainly shoot the adrenaline up and shake your height number up. So you want to take that into account. I always told, now I played basketball in high school, and the response we saw going back to that Cunningham point, the response we saw from Bonner, the athlete that she was pointing at, she turned around and missed her foul shots. So there was a physical altercation, kind of words were exchanged, and then she had to make shoot some foul shots, and she missed them. All right. So we're looking for performance in those foul shots, right? And I even saw a clip, I can't remember how quickly it was after that situation, but Bonner was on the bench and she did not look happy. So I'm imagining she got taken out. So when you're adding that physical touch, you have to understand that emotions can really bump up. So when I saw that, what happened, I saw Bonner's hype number go off the chart for her.
Right.
She reached a number where she could not physically perform the skill and the task. All right. So when I think about those situations and taking into account, I want you to think about a clear water bottle, right? Like a Aquafina, that type of water bottle. And I want you to think about this water that is in this clear bottle. If I put some dirt in that water bottle and I set that water bottle down, what happens to the dirt?
Well, it's going to settle to the bottom.
Yeah, it settles to the bottom. So that dirt represents your arousal, your hype. Okay. So if I, in that clear water, is my brain, what's going on inside my brain, my ability, my tools that I can use to mentally focus. And if I have control over that water bottle, I can keep that arousal at the level that I need it to. So if that dirt is still in that bottle and I look through, but it's at the bottom, and I look through that water, I can see on the other side of that. It's clear, right? Well, when we get over aroused, whether it's nerves, too much excitement, like with the situation that you saw with Cunningham and Bonner in that game, we are shaking that water bottle up. So if I have dirt in the bottom of a water bottle and I shake it up, what happens?
Well, it's going to get cloudy and you can't see, you can't focus.
Bingo. You knew exactly where I was going with that. So what happened is Bonner got over aroused in that moment and she shook her water bottle up. So then she couldn't see clearly. She couldn't see the situation. She couldn't probably hear anybody. You know, when you're in especially a verbal altercation and you're really in it, you don't hear other people around you trying to give you instructions and back you off, right? She couldn't focus to make the foul shots, and it got too much for her. And really what also can happen is you can think about your arousal level like a Coke bottle, and you shake a Coke bottle up, what happens?
Well, the carbonation is going to make it explode.
The lid can pop off, and that's what happened. Is her bottle got shaken up and she wasn't able to manage what was going on around her, and therefore her performance. So one tool, like what I was mentioning, is to think about your hype number and be intentional about identifying where is it that I want to be. Because if you know where you want to be, where you perform well, I can focus, I can manage my emotions, I can do all those things. Then you then become aware of it. Then you think, all right, well, what do I need to be doing in my sport, in my performance to keep me around that number that I like so that my bottle top doesn't pop off, or so that I can still see clearly through, this anxiety, this arousal that's always going to be there. All right. One of my go-to tools, and I may have talked about this before, but it's always a good reminder because this works all the time, is to think about the eat it process. All right. So this is kind of two key pieces here. When something happens, we want to experience it, experience the emotion or thought. It is okay that Bonner got mad at whatever happened prior to the point. Okay. Like if I was in that situation and Cunningham had been pointing at me like that, back in the day, I maybe would have had a similar response to Bonner because I didn't know how to control my emotions. I may have, you know, seen that she was holding the point. She was looking at me, and it just would have irritated the mess out of me. It would have made me mad. It maybe would have been a little embarrassing. All the things, right? It is okay for me to experience that. That's fine. Experience it. Experience and then acknowledge it. I am irritated because this opposing player has her finger in my face. I think it's rude. I think it's embarrassing. I don't know why she's getting away with it. All the things, that's fine. Experience, acknowledge. Then I want to ask, what adjustments do I need to make mentally, physically, and emotionally to get through this situation? Right? So I may think now, Megan, knowing what she knows and having tools, I may still be irritated that she's pointing like that because it gets on my nerves. I don't understand what she's doing and why, and she's being allowed to do that. But my adjustment is going to be, I know myself well enough to know what my escape route will be. Because if I engage with that, Megan knows I'm going to pop my bottle top off. So a tool that works for me, an adjustment that works for me is I may have laughed and been like, all right, All right, I see you. And then I'm going to disengage and physically remove myself because if I stay in that, my bottle top, my hype number, arousal number is going to go through the roof and I'm not going to be able to focus. So I want to know myself well enough to know what is my escape in situations that are heated like this. Okay. Some people, they know if they have any engagement that it's going to go off the chart. Their top's going to explode. So their immediate escape route may be to just turn their back and walk away and not even pay attention. It might be an ignoring, but notice what I'm doing. I'm physically removing myself from that situation. Another escape technique could be that you have somebody on your team that or a coach that you have worked with prior and you have said, when this type of stuff happens, I just need help to disengage. So I may need you to recognize when I'm shaking my arousal bottle up. I may need you just to come over and say a specific phrase to me or remove me. Don't touch me. Don't put your hands on me or take me and move me, but let somebody else help. Now, some people, their way to de-escalate and disengage may be to say, hey, you know what? That's pretty funny. Like, and you just laugh with Cunningham with what she's doing. Humor always seems to have this way of getting those emotions down and de-escalating things if that's the way you do it. All right, so that's the adjustment I may need to make. So I'm using kind of the eat it process for that. But something that I also have clients do is practice or rehearse how you're going to respond when things go sideways. So in a not escalated environment situation, I am going to rehearse. We're playing this team. We're playing this particular athlete who I know maybe could create some issues for me, might shake my bottle up, might get my arousal level up too high. So I'm going to rehearse and I'm going to say it out loud. I'm going to tell myself what I'm going to do. If this happens, I am going to X, Y, Z, and I'm going to keep rehearsing that so that when the moment comes, your brain's already kind of seen the situation and says, okay, well, Megan's been rehearsing that this is what she wants to do in this situation. Here's the situation. So I'm going to give her information to help her follow through on that plan, whatever that plan is. The other thing about that, though, is even if I rehearse it, the situation may come up and I may not do what I rehearsed. But the fact that I rehearsed what I wanted to do makes me more likely to be successful in disengaging than if I don't. So then when I'm disengaged like that, I keep my arousal levels down enough so that I can still perhaps perform. So I can still turn around and make those foul shots. Now, I may need to take a couple of breaths. I may need to anchor my vision and kind of get refocused there for a hot second. But it sets me up to be able to be more likely to be successful than if I don't rehearse and just pop that bottle off. So that's my thoughts.
No, and again, I love how you kind of make the science of it, pretty darn simple. And you mentioned this, different athletes, different people are going to have, different degrees of arousal or need. Their own hype number might be different, even within the same sport. But also, you are a mental performance coach and consultant, and what did you just talk about? Training that mental performance angle. So some pretty easy tools for coaches or for athletic directors to use with their coaches if they have a coach who, and these are my words, so you can correct me, if that coach or that athlete is wound a little tighter than, maybe is to their benefit, just making them aware of those things. And that's a lot of it. I think for me, especially when I was a younger athlete, I was very much, motions on the sleeve and hair trigger and all that stuff, sometimes to my benefit, many times to my detriment. But the whole situation that you just talked about, I think it started with an initial. Well, it didn't start. It boiled over with that first point. And I think Bonner's actually said, "Don't you point at me." And immediately, what did Sophie Cunningham do? Just start that long meme of points that just set Bonner further and further over the edge. So she's aware of this now. Now it's kind of up to her and her coaches and her team to help her channel all that great energy, but maybe channel it in a more productive way. Making free throws. Or whatever. I guess I got a question for you. As a pitcher, I know nothing about it, but I'm guessing obviously there's a degree of hype involved. Especially if you're throwing a fastball or whatever it is. But at the same time, the precision and the technical aspects, the skill level, it's not like a linebacker who's going in for a tackle, or even an outfielder that's tracking a ball and has to jump up and trying to rob somebody of a home run. That they're more, I guess their hype is going to be a little bit more, or is it just different hype? How does that work? I know there's about 6 different questions I covered there.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying, because if I'm going to make a tackle, I may have more wiggle room than if I'm trying to throw a pitch at a certain location or shoot a foul shot to a tiny little bucket, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it comes down to it's just a personal preference, but this speaks to why it's important for coaches to create practice environments that are going to mimic the game-like situation and pressures similarly. You can actually think about this with military, right? So with military training, like my 17-year-old daughter, she is looking to go to the U.S. Air Force Academy and wants to go Air Force. And she is in the Civil Air Patrol right now. You can think about ROTC or junior ROTC, anything like that. But what I hear sometimes, not from her, but from other cadets, is they don't like the yelling. And when you go to basic training for military, the people in charge are yelling and they're barking orders and they're in your face. You can see this with the law enforcement training as well, or first responder, especially like if they're learning how to shoot. There is a reason for the yelling. It's not just because those leaders are just wanting to yell. It's because the best way to create a stressful situation that mimics what they may handle, especially if they're doing shooting exercises, is yelling. So the soldiers or the law enforcement have to be able to perform under the stress of being yelled at and having, all these things that most people don't have to experience going on. They still have to be able to focus and get the job done, hit the right target the right way. And so that's similar in a sport, because those hype numbers, if you practice at a lower intensity and it's not mimicking game-like situations, then you're practicing the way that you're practicing it with that arousal, that hype level, and the level of focus. You're going to get into a game and that level of intensity is going to go up, but your arousal level where you're performing well is not matching the intensity of the competition. Follow me? So that's why it's important for coaches to create as much as they can, and even athletes themselves, to create these situations where they are under a similar intensity and stress as what they would be in competition, so that they can practice the appropriate arousal level for those situations.
Yeah, again, the training and the practice it just keeps coming back to that. You're going to come back under a situation of stress. You come back to your level of training, and
yes.
You
Yes.
talked about the Air Force Academy. Great stuff as always, Megan Buning. Very cool. If one of our listeners wants to find out more, not just about this, but about all the resources available through Dr. Megan Buning and FSU Coach, what's the best way that they can connect with you?
So you can reach out to me through my FSU email. It's m.bunning, so that's Buning at fsu.edu. And we actually had a name change. We are now just the Center for Athletic Coaching. And we have, I'm the master's degree and graduate certificate coordinator. So would love to have any of you administrators, any coaches, anybody working in and around coaching, take a look at our fully online programs. And if you have questions about what that involves, absolutely reach out to me.
Well, thanks again for coming back and sharing with our listeners on Wednesday Wisdom. All the best to you and the program and the family up there in Tallahassee. We'll be able to connect up there this fall when we come up for some cross country races. But keep doing what you're doing, and thanks again for coming on.
Of course, thanks for having me.
For listeners, we want to say thanks to you and just remind you we upload the Zoom recordings of every interview to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do Wednesday Wisdom just about every week and just about every day. We try to share stories along with some best practices from the world of athletics. So please come back and join us again on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Dr. Megan Buning, FSU. You really need to follow her on social media, follow her on LinkedIn. Tremendous resource. Other tremendous resources are our sponsors, and I want to give them one more shout out. Go and visit these sponsors. They're time savers. Some of them are money makers. They really should be part of your team. Let's say thanks to Hometown. You'll find them at hometown.com. Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards, sidelineinteractive.com. Athletic Surveys, you'll find them at athleticsurveys.com. Huddle, I used Huddle as a football coach. As an AD, we were a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com. Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Booster Hub, the #1 booster club software program. You'll find them at boosterhub.com. Home Campus, go to homecampus.com. Gipper, of course, gipper.com. And Vital Signs Wall of Fame, that's vitalsignswalloffame.com. Also check out Beacon Creative. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.